Today's daf is Masech Nedarim, Daf Ayin Beis. So we just had on Daf Ayin Aleph and Beis, the Gemara cleared a shaila. The Gemara wanted to know if a guy divorces his wife while she still has a neder. Meaning she made a neder and then his arusa. We're talking about arusa, aris tarasasai, and she made a neder and he divorced her. So does the Gemara want to know, is the gerish and kishtika damya, that it's just like he was quiet and there's no hakama or any afara, or does it have a din like a hakama? Because since the aris knows that he can't be made for his wife's nedarim after he divorces her, so it's as if he's a mekayim like hakama. The fact that he did the gerushin itself lives like hakama. So Mara said, what's a nafkamina? Nafkamina is if she made a neder and her husband heard about it and without being made for it, or clearly making a hakama, and then he remarried her that day, took her back that day. So if you say it's kishtika dam, and then he could make hafara because he still did not do it's as if there was no hafara or hakama yet. But if you say it's like hakama and he remarries her that very same day, then he cannot be made for her neder because he was already made for it, make him it by divorcing her. So the Gemara wants to bring a raya now, and I'm in Beis Amud Aleph on the top, that a gerushin has a din like hakama. Let's talk to Gemara Tashma. I'll bring a raya. Emasai Amru, when do we say Meis Habal Nasarkin Rishus La'av? When do we say by Nayim Meraso that if the husband dies, then his Rishus empties out to her father, that the father could be made for himself? In one of three times. One, Bizman Shalei Shama Habal, when the Baal does not hear the neder in his lifetime and then he dies. Oy Shama, or the Baal hears about the neder and he's made for it before he dies. That's another time you say Mesaban Rishus La'av. Oy Shama v'Shasak, or the Baal hears a neder and he's Shasak, he's quiet, he doesn't say anything, and he's not made for it, and he dies that day. So now Zakti Gemara, V'i Amri Gerushin Kishtika Damu, if you want to say that Gerushin has a din like Shtika. So if you want to tell me that Gerushin has a din like Shtika, so if you say that Gerushin has a din like Shtika, then listening Nami Oy Shama v'Gerish, and then let the Brisa say a fourth case where the halacha is Meis Habal Nasarkin Rishus La'av. Why? In which case? In a case where the Baal hears about his wife's neder and he divorces her by bayayim. So in that case also the father can be made for himself. The fact that we did not say there's a fourth time that is Meis Habal Nasarkin Rishus La'av is mashma from that the gerushin has a din like a hakama. And since the gerushin, the idea the gerushin is as if he's already mekayim the neder, and Mela the father, there is takano din Meis Habal Nasarkin Rishus La'av, because the father can't be made for it anymore, because as if there was a hakama. Zok the Gemara Ema Seifa. I'll bring you a raya from the Seifa. Let's say the Seifa. Avom Shama V'Kiyim. If the Baal heard about the neder and is mekayim it before he died, Oy Shama V'Shasak, or he heard about the neder and he was shasak, and he was not made for it. Umeis Biyoim Shal Achrav, and he dies the next day. So kumta is that he's mekayim the neder al yidei the shtika. The whole day that he heard about the neder. Halacha is ein yachal efer. The father cannot be made for. This is a seifa of this brisa. It says that the father cannot be made for after Mizabal. V'i amar gerushin hakama damoy. And if you say that gerushin, it has a din like hakama. So lisni v'im shama v'geresh. So let the brisa say another case that it's not Nasarkin Rishus La'av. It says this case in the Seifa that is Shama v'Shasak and Meis B'Yom Shel Achrav and Yachal Hefer. Say also a case where he's Shama and the Baal hears about the neder v'Gerish because it has a din like hakama. Element like Tani Hachi, Zok the Gemara. No, you see from the Seifa of Hakert. You don't have a raya that Gerushin can come in. Why? Like Tani Hachi, Shma that Gerushin has a din kishtika damu, and it's not like hakama. So Muzayin, even after the Baal hears about it that day and he divorces his wife, has it din like a shtika, and even after that, the father could go ahead and be made for himself la'achar the gerushin. So Zok the Gemara, from this brayas, the Itaka can't be pushed either way, because the Reish is mashma one way, maybe, but the Seif is mashma fakert. So you can have to say the Zok the Gemara, the Reisha dafka, if the Reisha means dafka, these three hechatimtas, you say that Mesabana Sarikun Shus La'ab, but not in the case where it's Megarish's wife, then you have to say that this the Nasav Seif is Shem Reisha, that the Seifa is lav dafka, and only said in the Seifa to tell you opposite cases from the Reisha. The East Seifa dafka, and if you tell me that the Seifa is dafka and it will be masha from and you'd go say that the Seifa is dafka and you talk about medayik from the Seifa that if the Baal is Megarish's wife, then it is a din because the Gerishim is not like Hakama, rather it's like a Shtika. Then you would have to touch up that the Reish is lav dafka and the Reish only chapped on such as that because of the Seifa. Meaning the Seifa is dafka. The Seifa is talking about cases where you say Mesabal that it's not Nesreikun Shus Labal, Mesabal Sam Nesreikun Shus La'av, and the Reish is coming to tell you Allah Chesfakeret that it is Nesreikun Shus La'av. So talking about Tashma, I'll bring you a raya from the Mishnah we had before in Ayin Alf. The Mishnah says, Nadra v'hi arusa, if she made a neder and she's arusa and eskarsha and she gets divorced from the aris in that day, without avio baila being made for the neder, v'nis arsa, she goes ahead and she gets married to another man by bayoim. The halacha is afilu lameya, even if it happened like this to 100 people, she marries 100 people that day, gets married and gets divorced, the halacha is avio baila achra mefirin and derel. The avio baila achra can be made for her neder, even her nedarim that were under the first husband, first aris. Shema me knows like Gemara, Gerushin Kashtika Damu. You see from that Gerushin is like a Shtika, the Ika Kama Damu. Mi Matzi Meifar Aris Achron, then could the last Aris be Meifar? B'shut V'Sa'av, Nidri Ukam Aris Rishon, then could the last Aris be Meifar in a Daram that the first Aris was Mekim? So Muzai and Zak Gemara, that you see from this, that the Aris's Gerushin has a din like a shtika. So Dr. Gemara, no, I can madcha this right. I can tell you l'olam that a Gerushin has a din like a hakama, and this that the Mishnah says that the aris acher can be mefer, even a darm from under the aris rishon together with the father. Hachamay skin and mishaloisham aris rishon. I tell you, it's talking about that the aris rishon never heard about the neder before he divorced her. So the mela, that's why the Gerushin is not nechshav hakama. Because it's only nechshav hakama only after here's a nether, but you say it's talking about not hearing the nether. So Frakti Gemara, Hachi, the Mishnah is talking about that the Aris Rishon never heard the nether. My ira boy bayoim. Why do you have to tell me that? Dafka, if he's a skarsha boy bayoim, because the Aris never heard the nether before the Gerushin afila achar me'yom nami. Even after 100 days, if the Aris did not hear about the nether, then the nether can never be hakama with the shtika Aris. So then what's the chiddush in the Mishnah that the aris achron can be for together with the father? Look, it's pashat. There was never the first aris never heard of the nether. So look, it's pashat that the last aris can be made for. It says after Gemara, the Mishnah is talking about kishaloi shama aris, the shama. It's talking about that the first aris did not hear about the nether, but the father did. The boy bayoim who the matzi meifar, because the father did hear about it, so that day the aris acher came meifar. However, from here on, because the father already heard about it and he was not meifar it, and until she was in this arsa, already passed the Yom Shmiya of the father. So Mela, it's considered a neder with the shtika of the father. So that's why it has to be by Bayayim. Otherwise, the father's shtika, if he's not mefer, hasn't been like a kama. Zak Gemara Tashma I'll bring you another raya. The Mishnah says later on Daf Peites Amud Aleph, Neder by B'yoim, a lady that makes a neder by B'yoim, Gersha v'hechsira by B'yoim, and her husband divorces her that day and remarries her that day. The halacha is Ein yachal lehefer, he cannot be made for an Nedarim after he remarries her. Shmamino, you see, the Gershon Kakamadami. And because he's Mekayim and Neder al Gershon, that's why he can't be made for them again, even after he remarries her. So, right from Forsham Mission, Daf Peites. So, the Gemara, Amri, I'll tell you that no. Havada Gershon's taka like Shtika. And this that it says in this Mishnah, Daf Peites, that a Baal cannot be made for Hacham and Nesua Skinon. It's talking about a Nesua, a married woman. It's saying that her husband cannot be made for an Nedarim himself without the father. So it's talking about that she remarried, but not Erison. Not she had another Eris. She already remarried this guy Nesuin. So Zakmara Hainu time from Shum the Einabal Mefer Bekodim, because this neder was before she got married, and the halacha is that after Nesuin, the Baal cannot be made for a Nedarim that she made before the Nesuin. So the Baal does not have a din that he can make for Nesuin before, made for her Nedarim that she made before this Nesuin, the second Nesuin. So although the Baal was already married to this woman in a first Nesuin, let's say it was, the Chari could be talking about even though it was already a Nesuin Rishonim, not Lavdaka, there was a Erison, and then he did have Rishus over her Nedarim, but Lamaisa he divorced her, so he totally lost that whole Zchus. And if she makes a Nedarim, if she made a neder before the Nesuin, it has a din. Before the second Nesuin, it still has a din like before Nesuin, even though he once had a schus in the Nesue Rishon in her Nedarim, because Lamaisa he lost the schus when he made a Gerish. Okay. Zogt the Heilige Mishnah. Weiter. Top of on days. Derech Talmidei Chachamim, the ways of Talmidei Chachamim, since they are afraid of being over in the Nedarim, before a Talmid Chacham's daughter would go and get married to her husband, he would tell her, any that you men in my house, harehi mufarin, they are mufar. I'm being made for them. Because once she gets married to her husband, he can't be made for them anymore. His daughter already went out of his shus. B'chein Baal, and the Baal also actually to kind of shusai before he marries his wife. He tells her, any neder you make before Nesuin is mufar, and his hafara is mitzarf to the father's hafara, like the din of Nair Marasa, the Av and the Aras are made for the Nedarim together. And the Baal, Mishnah trying to say the Baal should do. That's why. Because once this woman goes into his rishos, he cannot be made for any more these Nedarim, because it ain't a Baal made for Bekoidman. He cannot be made for a Nedarim that come before, that she made before Nesuin. Clarity Gemara. Boy Ram Bacham. Zakte Gemara. Boy Ram Bacham. Ram Bacham clarity Shayla. Baal Mao Sheyofer Beloy Shmiya. So Ram Bacham wants to know, does the hafara of the Baal have to have a shmiya? It means like if he's not sure if she made a neder, could he be made for on a suffix? So the Gemara is going to explain. This that it says, Vishama Isham Minbar Parak Lam Pasuk Chesed Tes says V'shama Isha. He hears about it. V'hefer es nidra. Dafkahu is that dafka that without shmiya, as the pasuk's telling you, he has to hear about it. Without shmiya, he can't be mefer. Oi, lav dafka is a lav dafka. This is the pasuk says v'shama isha is lav dafka, and even without shmiya, the husband can be mefer. And the Mishnah just the pasuk says v'shama isha is only chapping on the normal thing. The normal thing is that he hears about it, so he's mefer, but it's not ma'akev. Amar Rava, so Rava tries to push Shaila. It says Tashma. The Mishnah says Derech Talmid Lechamim. The way of Talmid Lechamim are actually Yatzpitei Me'etzlo. He tells her Kol Nedarim Shanadat V'Seich Beis Harei Mufarin. Right, we had this Mishnah. So Zok the Gemara V'Ha Leishama. He tells her all Nedarim Shanadat the Chayra, and he didn't specify any neder. He didn't say this neder Pliny or Pliny. He says Mashma Leishama. That even though he didn't hear the neder, still he could tell her, I'm made for any neder that may have happened there. While you were my rishus, that's what he's telling his daughter. So that's Gemara. No, Avada could tell you that he can't be made for without shmiya, and lichi shama who the made for. He's saying that he's going to be made for when he hears about the neder. He's going to go ahead and he's going to be made for it again, but not that the hafar is chal on a derm that he never heard. So basically, Gemara is saying that he's saying that no, the ones that I didn't hear, it means when I hear about it, I'll be made for. So, in fact, Gemara if he didn't hear that she made a neder, lamale lameimar, why is he telling her kol nedarim shanadar that any neder that he made is mufer? L'chayra, he's going to have to be made for it after he hears about it only. So, Zok Gemara kamash malon urchi detzur merabanon la hadurei. The Mishnah is trying to tell you that it's the ways of Talmidei Chachamim that they would go tell their daughters this thing, that any neder that you made is mufer. Lamaisa, they're waiting. They didn't even hear. They didn't hear the neder. They have to wait to hear about it to make afar. So why are they telling the daughter that? Zok Gemara, it's kamash malon that this is the way they do it. Because they want to let their daughters know that they should remember, in order that they should tell them, when they tell them that, they'll remember they made Nedarim, and then they'll go tell the fathers, and then the fathers will be made for it. So that's Pshat in the Mishnah. So now Zok the Gemara Tashma, I'll bring you a raya. I'll bring you another raya from the Seifa. The Seifa says, he tells his wife, Kol Nedarim Shenadar Tarei Mufarim. So the fact that he says Kol Nedarim Shenadar and does not tell her, doesn't specify neder pliny, it's mashma that the Baal Taka did not hear the neder, and still you see the Mishnah says clearly that the Baal can be made for without shmiya. Zok the Gemara, no Avada, I'll tell you that he can't be made without shmiya. The Baal Hachanami over here also it's talking about similar to what we answered on the Reisha, the guy with the father, the Amar law, that the Aras tells her l'chishamana, that when I hear about it, I will be mefer. And even though now he's making the Ma'aseh, but it's chal only, the chafar is only going to go into effect once he hears about the neder. So this really seems like a Murray Chiddush, and the Ran explains that even though he's telling her that I'm going to hear the neder, it's mashma even after Nesuin. I l'chayra eina bal mefer b'nidui kaimin. What's pshat? Zok the Ran explains the Ran that over here it's different because since even though the shmiya is after Nesuin, the hafar is still going to be chal. Because the time that he made the Ma'aseh Hafara, there was still a din of Hafara Sa'av, and there was still a din that the Hafaras of the Av and the Baal Mitzaref, and we don't care that at the time at the Chalois HaNeder, when the Hafara actually goes into effect, the father's Rishus is no longer here anymore, because it's after the Zoom. We don't care, that doesn't bother us, Hafara could still be Chal. That's Pshat as a Ma'aseh Hafara. The bottom line is a big chiddush, but the Ma'aseh Hafara was made before Nesuin, so Mila could go into effect later on. Okay, so the kids we do not have a raya. So the Gemara is still trying to bring rayas. Like the Gemara Tashma, I'll bring you a raya from the Mishnah later on, Ayin Hey. The Mishnah says, if a guy tells his wife, any neder that you make, from this time now that I'm going out until I reach that place, till I come to that place, the Makom Ploni, Harein Kayamim, these Nedarim are Kayim. The halacha is, the Mishnah says, Lo Yamar Klum. It's nothing. Why? Because he can't be Mekayim and Neder before the Neder was made. But if he tells her, Kol Nedarim Shetaduri Ad Sha'avim Makom Ploni, if he tells her every neder that you make until I get to reach to that place, Harei Mufarin, they should be Mufar. Belezer Emer Mufar. Belezer says that it is a good afara. And L'chayra affecting Amara B'halei Shama, the Baal did not hear about the neder. Because the time that he's made for it, she still did not make the neder even. So you see the Baal can be made for a neder even without a shmiyah. Zakti Gemara, no, it's not true. Hachanami the Amar l'chishamano. This also, I'll tell you, is talking about that he tells her l'chishamano when I hear about it. And even though now he's making the ma'isafara, but the chalois is only happening later on, b'shas hashmiyah, the same teretz. So frekti Gemara v'lamali min hashta. If the hafara is not chal only when he hears about the neder later on, so then why does he have to make the ma'isafara? L'chishama leifala. Let him make the afara later on when he hears about it. So the Gemara wants to know, what's the point of him making him afara now? It's like the Gemara, he thinks that maybe at the time of the shmi of the neder he'll be busy, and he won't have time to be made for the neder. And Meli is doing it now that it should be chal b'shas shmi later on, and even if he gets to do it or he gets caught up and he gets busy. Tashma, Zok the Gemara. I'll bring you a different raya. Ha'omer la'apotropos. It says in the brisa, if someone tells apotropos. So this is a brisa. The brisa says, if somebody tells apotropos, all nedarim that my wife makes from now until I come from this place, that they should all be hafer. They should all have hafer on them. The hafer law. Or he tells a hafer, you should be made for. He tells the apotropos, the custodian, you should be made for. The hafer law. The apotropos goes and he's made for the nedarim after the husband goes out, after he left. So he's going away for a period of time. So yachol yuhu mufarin, I might think that the nedarim would be mufar tamalema isha yikimenu v'isha yiverenu. So the Gemara, it says, Dr. Brisa, it says in the pasuk twice isha. From the fact that Torah wrote twice Isha, we learn out that Dafka the Baal, it teaches us that Dafka the Baal can make for himself, and Shlichus cannot help on Hafara. Divrei Rabbi Yashi, that's what Rabbi Yashi says. You learn out from Isha, there's no din Shlichus on Hafara for the Baal. Amar le Rabbi Yonason told Rabbi Yoshia, Matzinu Chala Torah Kula Shluch Shanu Kamaisa. What do you mean? We find the concept in Chala Torah Kula Shluch Shanu Kamaisa. A messenger of a person is like himself. So it's as if the Mishalech, the person that's sent to do it, is making the hafara. So the Chayr, why should din hafara be different than the din shlichus in Chala Torah Kula? Va'afil Rabbi Yoshia that argues the Gemara. The only reason why he argued is because he held that the Gzeres Akasav of Ishi Kimen of Ishi Ferenu, that only the Baal himself can be made for. Al the Kuli Alma, everybody agrees with that without the Miyat, if you didn't have this Miyat of Isha, that you'd say Shluch Shalom Kamaisa, even the Gabi Afara. So Frekti Gemara, L'chayra Aval Ishmialei, the Baal did not hear this neder. So if the Baal himself can't be made for without Shemiah, then L'chari can't be Mamana Shliach to make the Afara also, because we say, there's a concept of Shlichus that we say that anything a Shliach can't do himself, anything a person can't do himself, he can't be Mamana a Shliach to do for him. So Muzayin, that even Chaygamna, that the husband did not hear about it, a neder, even without a shmiyah, he could still be made for it. The other raya could be made for without a shmiyah. Zakti Gemara, no, Avad, that's not true. You can't be made for without a shmiyah. There's no such a thing And this that he told the apotropos to be made for Hachanami, it's talking about the Amar Lei. He tells the apotropos Lichishamana Mefer La. He tells the apotropos that when you hear about the Nedarim that my wife made, that's when the Hafar Shpichal, when I hear about them. And on that, he can make him a shliach, just like he himself could say, I want the Hafar to only Bichal when I hear about it, so he can make a shliach on that very same thing. So, frekti Gemara, l'chishama leifala, so why is the Baal B'chlal appointing a shliach? Let him just do it himself when he hears about it. It's only going to be chal when he hears about it. So Gemara, some the Baal thinks that maybe he'll get busy when he hears about it and he'll forget. So therefore, is man apotropos to do the job.